Reb Chaim Epstein related that there was someone who was suffering many difficulties in his life, and he approached the Alter Skver Rebbe in Williamsburg, and he told him, "I'm so depressed, I'm so despondent, things are so difficult." And the Skver Rebbe looked at him and he said, "How can a person feel that way if every single morning he makes the bracha Shaloi Asani Goy, which means that we're more beloved to the Eibishter than the Queen of England? If the Eibishter is machshiv you more than the Queen of England, how is it possible to be depressed?" The Shari Avodah, Rabbi Yoina writes in a sefer that the first step of Avodas Hashem is to realize Erech Atzmai, to know your own value. When a person knows his own value, then he could go and begin to serve Hashem. When one is loved by Hashem and loved by someone, it shows that he's special, and that's because we're so valuable to him. The Eibishter needs us in order to fulfill his grand plan in the world. Rabbi Yossi Friedland just related to me a story that he had heard from the legendary Rabbi Hachberg. Rabbi Hachberg once told him that when I was a Rebbe in RJJ over 60 years ago, there was a boy in my class who was so not only not motivated in Yiddishkeit, but he was on his way to become one of the worst criminals. Everyone knew then about the notorious criminal Louis Lepke. He was Nebuch Yid, and he was one of those mafia members. And people said that he's on his way, Nebuch, to become a Louis Lepke. And that's taka what happened. He left yeshiva, he was gone, and he was holding people up, and he was really a criminal. Rabbi Hachberg tried to keep tabs on him to see what's going on with him. After a while, he didn't hear anything about him for a while, and he figured he's either eliminated by his rivals or he's in jail. Around 35 years ago, many decades later, Rabbi Hachberg found himself by the Kaisel Ma'aravi in Eretz Yisrael, and at the Kaisel he noticed in the distance, not too far, was a man, a Yid, a from a Yid standing there with a wife and children. The man walked over to Rabbi Hachberg and he said, "Shalom Aleichem Rebbe," and he introduced himself as that boy from RJJ. Rabbi Hachberg stood there in shock. He couldn't believe it. And the man said, "I understand your shock and I understand your astonishment, but let me tell you the story. In America, there were hot on my trail. I had to get away. I traveled to Israel, and over there I continued what I had done best at that time. I was holding up people, and I was living on drugs, and I was a druggie, and I was just living that kind of life of criminal. I was a felon. One day, I woke up from one of my stupors. I'm laying in a gutter. I was confused and dazed, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I here? What am I doing with my life? There's no purpose to continue living. I took out my revolver, and I pointed it to my head, and I'm ready to take my life. And suddenly, it flashed in my mind the vision of Rabbi Hachberg, and I saw you saying these words, "No matter how far a Yid will stray, the Rebbeinu Shalom will always take him back." And all I can tell you is that here I am today, from a Yid with a Yiddish family. The Eibishter has such a love to Yid, and no matter how far they stray, no matter what they'll do wrong, because the Eibishter needs every single Yid, and we're more precious than what's called those days the Queen of England. How important it is that we are revealing Kvod Shamayim from everything that we do, every little act, every nisayon that we're oimid in. When we're oimid b'nisayon and we have trials, all of those trials are necessary for us to bring out all of the Kvod Shamayim that we are supposed to bring out. Not one of them could be missing. All of it has to be either accomplished by overpowering the Yetzer Hara or by Chas v'Shalom after a failure to be Chayzer b'tshuva, and that also does it. And we have these opportunities all the time. And every minute the Eibishter loves us more than the Queen of England because he needs it for us to be Mekayim his Ratzon. When we think about our huge value and the love of Hashem for us, it'll help us take the steps forward no matter how difficult things really are.